I'll be working out a lot of bugs and things like that. This is very new to me, so this is very nerve-wracking in the sense that I gotta kind of stay fluid, stay on topic, and this is good because now I got a way of critiquing myself better here. Let me bring everything up so that I can see the chat session and everything like that. So let's get this going here. Bring it up to current. And let's see what we got. All right. So today I just sit here and randomly give you all my thoughts. I did create a video earlier today talking about my thoughts and everything. Let me turn the audio off on my secondary screen so that way at least I can see comments and things like that on the screen as I go. So let's just start off with the typical stuff that I should say in the beginning, which is the disclaimer. Nothing that I share in this is financial advice, and in that being what it is just my sole opinion, and my observation. It's about my ideas and what I plan to do to help change, things for the better for my family, for myself, and hopefully share this information with you in how you could possibly do the same thing. So it's not where I'm telling you what to do. I'm not an advisor. I mean, you can ask questions, sure. I may or may not have answers for you, and most of the time it's just going to be me here, probably on Sundays until I can get a normal schedule worked out. The hours for now, I think 5 p.m. Eastern time would be a good time to start this, and then people can always catch up and watch these later on. So let's get started with the topics at hand. So I did create this cycle of life thing a little while ago and uploaded it, but I thought I'd kind of elaborate a little bit on how I'm doing things and why I pursue, velocity banking and the statements behind. A lot of people think, IBC or what's it called again? I forgot what IBC stands for. Infinite banking concept. There we go. So with the infinite banking concept, it is not a scam, but it is a scam at the same time. So this is kind of like a partial truth statement in here saying, that it's not a scam, however. Right? People feel like it's a scam after buying a poorly designed whole life insurance policy. I don't sell whole life insurance policies. I did a whole bunch of research, and I'm like, man, what is it that I could do to protect my family on my own? Because most employers, most corporate employers nowadays do have benefits in place that you can set up your own limited and term life insurance. Usually it's for the term that you're working with your employer that they're paying for that policy, or you can sign up during the open enrollment time to get your own whole life insurance policy. And I viewed it as a financial thing because what happens if, nowadays, especially after the COVID thing, a lot of people were dropping like flies everywhere. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of these people didn't have, any kind of whole life insurance policy or any insurance policy to cover the expenses. They didn't have a living will. They didn't have a will at all, right? They didn't have a trust set up. Most of them didn't have their finances in order so that whenever they die, their family could pick up, what had happened, right? What bills do I need to pay? is there any insurance? Is there a car? Is there a house? Who's controlling those assets, right? Who belongs to the car, right? In other words, like you have the car, of course, but which bank? Do you communicate those things? If you're single, who do you communicate it with your parents, if they're still around, or a significant other, or your friends? What happens, right? What happens if? So I was saying with MPI and whole life insurance, I did the research on both, and both have their pros and both have their cons. And in general, you may or may not have heard of infinite banking. It's just a concept of how you would treat a whole life insurance policy, assuming that you got the right whole life insurance policy to begin with. And it was designed in such a way that you could take loans against it to invest it into other things, say start up a business or do peer-to-peer lending or invest in stocks and bonds, mutual funds, or whatever it is that you're going to do to take the money as a positive loan, not a negative loan. A positive loan to me means something that is going to return you cash for what you're borrowing, and you make more, hopefully, than what you borrowed and what you're paying for that loan. And then all while that's going, you continue to pay into your policy, keep paying the premiums. The account keeps growing, your equity keeps growing inside there, and then as you get paid back on your investments, you throw that money back in and help grow that even faster. All the loans that you pull from your whole life insurance policy, if it's whole life or just term, you would just have it tax. It'd be tax free, basically, if you pull it out as a loan. If you do withdrawals, on the other hand, that will be taxed. There's tax problems there, so you're not trying to do withdrawals. You're wanting to do tax advantage solutions. So while I was looking up whole life and stuff like that, and doing my research and listening to Dave Ramsey and everything like that, I was like, man, I don't think this is legit. Like I just don't know. So I started watching all these videos from many of these, like Wealth Nation and so on, about all these whole life insurance policies, and Chris Noggle and all those people. And I'm like, okay, great. What are they selling? Because when they talk on these videos, they're basically so hyped up. They're like, oh, you need to do this. Why would you do this any other way? You're stupid if you don't do this. I'm like, okay, well, not everybody I would think is stupid. Therefore, why would they even stumble across your video or even want to watch it if they're stupid, right? They're looking for information. They're trying to gain knowledge. They're trying to figure out, hey, do I really want to do this IBC thing? And what is IBC? I need some information. I don't want to pick up the phone yet. I don't want to be forced into buying something or sold something, right? I want to research things on my own. At least for me, I didn't want to call up somebody and be sold something. I wanted to get information on my own, do as much research as I could, so that by the time I picked up the phone and called somebody, called an agent or whoever, I had enough knowledge to take me to where I needed to go, right? So I would know what questions I need to ask, because it's very important. Some people think that giving answers are the hardest things in life, right? But in reality, it's coming up with a very clear and concise question, right? Knowing how to ask questions to get the correct answer is very difficult in life, right? And most of the time, it should start with why. So I like to listen to a lot of these YouTube channels. I forgot what their names are right now, but I'll eventually scroll through them all, who I'm subscribed to, and things like that, and I'll bring them up over time through these episodes. But most of this conversation had started where I saw these YouTube videos. I'm like, oh, you know what? This is kind of interesting, that you could take a whole life insurance policy and then you could live off of it, basically tax free, not have to pay taxes on the interest of the account as it grows. You have a whole life insurance policy, so if something was to happen, your family would be covered for some of it. I mean, it wouldn't be a large enough policy to cover everything, right? Obviously, it doesn't do that for me. For example, um, I'm 44 years old, and the policy I have is a little bit over $100,000. Well, that ain't gonna cover much of anything because just the house alone is 444,000, right? Around 450, something like that. So to me, it was like, okay, well, it's enough to say, hey, if I teach my family what to do when I pass away, and if they were to invest all of that insurance money from the insurance policies and put it into dividend paying stocks or EFTs or ETFs, sorry, I always get that backwards. Put it into ETFs, then you take that monthly income and you can use that money to pay bills, to live off of, and do pretty much everything and anything that you need to do. So what I was thinking is, well, maybe I'll just get the IVC policy. Then I was doing research and I ran across this video, from Curtis about MPI, and I was like, what the heck is that? Is that another whole life insurance policy thing? What is it? And it turns out to be, like it's they call it a SKIA, which is nothing more than they just throw these extra acronyms into things. And I think this is like a multiplier thing, something premium index. I forgot what the MPI stands for, but basically you're looking for a SKIA, right? A secure compound interest account. And I started researching that, and then I went back to the whole life insurance people, and I'm like, is MPI a scam? And then they'd go, oh, the MPI is an IUL. Then the whole life insurance policy people would be like, oh yeah, that's a scam. You don't want to do that because it's tied to the stock market, and if the stock market's not doing good, you're not going to get paid interest, and therefore your account's not going to grow. So I was like, okay, well, let's put this argument to bed. I've done all my research on whole life insurance policies and then using it in IBC manner, which is infinite banking concept. And I was watching all these videos, like tons of videos for MPI and IULs and all that, and I came up to do just MPI, right? I could get an IUL, sure, from any agent anywhere, but if it is my understanding that if I did an MPI and the underlying insurance policy was set up in such a manner that it was cost efficient, the concept behind MPI and how SKIAs work to me is basically like you taking leverage to buy a house. What I mean by that? What I mean by that is everyone who owns a home or is about to own a home has to get a loan to buy the home. Unless you have a whole bunch of money sitting on the side, saved up, I mean like hundreds of thousands of dollars, unless you're, moving to a mobile home somewhere and you can afford to pay cash. But most typical people don't have, hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting around in an account just to buy a home. It's very unrealistic and just not possible, with this type of economy, even before this, I would call it a depression, a Great Depression kind of thing. I would say that the likelihood of someone having that kind of money is slim to none, even today, slim to none. Okay, so I was like, well, let me look at this as a from a perspective of I need leverage to buy a house. So why wouldn't I accept a $6,000 leverage towards a whole life insurance policy that could potentially help me grow my insurance policy faster? So I looked at MPI and how they do their thing, and they can explain all that stuff to you. And I'm not trying to sell nothing. I don't sell anything. I have no affiliation with these guys. I have not read any of these books. I've only watched their videos, right? This is the guy here on YouTube, Donnell Statham, that I've learned the most from. And you can find him on YouTube. He's got very great content. He talks about velocity banking. And I just watched him. I started joining his live videos on Sundays and on Wednesdays, and I learned a ton from Donnell and his wife. So I watched a lot of his videos. I also watched a lot of videos from Chris Noggle and another guy who said he's like an anti-IUL person. So he bashes IUL all the time. I forgot what his name is. Um, I'll try to find it for you guys in the future. But he would just bash IULs. He would even bash MPI, and to me, it doesn't make any difference. So what I did was I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just start both of them, just like the I think it's called Better Wealth or something like that. I can't remember the kid's name right off the top, but he looks fairly young, like maybe late 20s, early 30s. But he talks about whole life insurance policies and kind of using it, kind of not using it as an IBC kind of thing, infinite banking concept thing, and or just looking for tax advantages and the and asset thing. So I was already thinking and. So it's kind of like I'm going to invest in my 401k at work and I'm going to invest in peer-to-peer lending. So I did that when I started in 2012 with the company I work for, and they said, hey, here's your 401k. We have up to 5-6% match, and so I was doing that, and I was like, well, money got tight. Then I started reducing my percentage contribution towards my 401k down to like 3%, and pretty much I just left it there. So for the last 12 years, that account has gone up to 107,000 today. That's not much. I was able to borrow twice against it to buy two homes, basically. Once in like 2006 and another one just recently in 2022. I think it was 2022, 2023, somewhere on there. I closed on a house. I needed down payment. Even though I'm a vet and I have VA, I was trying to make my monthly payment as low as possible. And I noticed the interest rates are starting to climb. They were going up and going up and going up. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to lock in what I can, and I'm going to pay out of pocket, to buy my points, right? To keep it as low as possible. So today I have a 2.875 interest mortgage, and that's the best I could get. I wanted to keep it low. I figured, shoot, I'm going to be paying this for 30 years. Let me just do that. And so that's where I went. Um, After all that, I was like, man, I need to pay off debt. I had a lot of debt, a lot of credit card debt, poor decisions, and life events and things like that. And I had close to, if not more than, $1 million in debt. So that includes the house that I had, and the car that I had, my student loans, credit cards. I don't know how many credit cards I had. Solar loan. It was a home improvement loan, basically what they do for water treatment systems. And then I also had what else did I have? I had the solar loan, water treatment loan, my house, credit cards, car. What am I missing? There's something else I'm missing, but it was close to like $1 million in debt. And then I went out and bought an RV because I sold my home. I needed a place to live, and it was just me and my son. I was like, okay, well, I can live in an RV. My son will have some fun because we're gonna go to like RV resorts and then just rent a spot, 1 year at a time, signing contracts. So I started with a small RV that had to be towed, fifth wheel by a truck. So that was more debt. And then I was like, man, this RV is way too small. It has no storage in it, and it just felt really cheap and not stable. Like I feel like I could just blow on the RV and it would fall over or fall apart. So I was like, I don't want this. And I was looking at the Class A's, so I bought a Class A. There goes another 300 to $400,000 right there. So my debt was racked up really, really high. The house finally sold. That was during the whole pandemic thing. And then my RV was stuck in the shop for over 6 months with repairs and stuff, and they didn't have anybody to do the work because, the COVID situation was going down and there was, no one there to do any work, and parts were were very hard to find. And so I sold the RV, and I sold the house, and I got an apartment. Um, and I'm not going to go into too much personal information on what happened and why and things like that. I'll just leave it at that. So, um, fast forward to now, I a couple years ago, I was looking for a house again. I was like, man, apartment living is tough. It is really, really tough because for someone who lives in a home, you're used to not having neighbors on top of you or right next door to you or right below you, right? So you have your space and you can make noise. You can stomp on the floor if you want to. You can watch movies if you want to at any volume you want. And I didn't have to worry about that. But then when I get to apartment, I think it was one night I was watching Transformers or something like that, and just the bass and the sound from that video from that movie is just so loud. The floor was vibrating, and I was aware that I need to keep the volume down, but the audio is so weird in that movie that all the action scenes and all the music is like cranked way up high, but then whenever the actors start talking, the volume is way super low, and you're like, man, I gotta turn up the volume and turn down the volume, turn up the volume, turn down the volume, so it's just creating this workout of thumbs. And that didn't help anything because the neighbors downstairs were like hitting the ceiling, like, hey, you need to be quiet. I was like, golly. And then every night there would be my neighbors upstairs above me, so I was kind of sandwiched in between. You had like elephant feet, man, or something, because they'd be slamming their heels into the floor, boom, 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 and chairs falling on the ground from upstairs. What it sounded like that a chair would fall over, and you'd hear like a loud crash, and like, man, they're gonna fall through the ceiling. And they had a bad habit of moving furniture at like 11, 12 p.m. at night, just causing all kinds of ruckus, like sliding tables across the floor and just making all kinds of crazy noise. And I was like, man, this sucks. And then the neighbors to the left of me, they were just loud and rowdy and smoking some stuff. We'll just say smoking some herb. And so I don't like that stuff personally. I like to stay, drug free, clean, and all that. So that stuff bothers me. And it was just coming through from their patio to my window or into the vent somehow. I'm not sure how, but the smell was just so bad. And I was like, man, you're not even supposed to be smoking on the patio. You're supposed to go to like designated smoking areas anyway, but they were obviously smoking something they're not supposed to be smoking. But that's besides the point. And then to the other side of me, I thought it'd be cool to be like really close to the pool. Well, that was a huge mistake because even though the hours at the pool say, hey, sundown, the pool's closed, nope, that's not the case here. They'd be party animals out there, kids screaming all night long at all hours of the night. It could be like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and people screaming. There could be guys outside walking their dogs and just talking so freaking loud. I'm like, man, can you guys just like tone it down? So I was getting frustrated, right? Um, and at the time, my girlfriend, she was also getting very frustrated with that stuff too. She was like, man, we got to go to work, and I'm not getting any sleep. The dogs are barking. Well, at the time, I had one dog. I just had Piper, as you see on my screen, the one that's holding the How to Invest for Yourself. That's Piper. Um, so she was like, man, we got to do something. We'd call, we'd complain, nothing would get done. There was one time that my girlfriend's daughter got locked out of the house with my son, and they couldn't get inside because they had these smart locks and stuff like that. So we had to call maintenance. They never came, never unlocked the door. It's just weird. There's just things like that that just drive you nuts when you live in an apartment. Sure, you don't have to worry about yard work. You don't have to worry about maintenance. You can always call someone. They'll come over and fix the oven or the fridge or whatever, right? I mean, that's pretty much what it's good for. But at the same time, like, come on, man, there's so much sacrifice you have unless you don't go to your apartment except to just sleep. Then okay, that works out good for you. But no, I mean, it just sucked. So I started looking for houses, and this was like towards the end of, or almost the near end of the pandemic. So in 2021, that crazy stuff went down. At the end of 2021 and early 2022, I think it was at the end of 2021, I started looking for a house and signed a contract. I mean, it took forever. I tried to find a home that was already built. Every time I tried to put money down to say, hey, I'm serious about this house, or put in a bid towards the house, they'd be like, nope, there's like 10 or 15 other people going above list. And I was like, holy crap, man, what am I going to do? I can't find a house anywhere that was already built so I could just move into it, you know? Um, because I really wanted out of the apartment. I hated it. And I also have this thing, like I tell my son, I'm like, there's a huge difference between renting an apartment and owning a house. One, you throw money away. The other one, you're putting money into, and if you ever need anything out of it in the future, you can get money out of it. When you leave an apartment, depending on when you leave your apartment, you have to worry about, how clean it is, what kind of damages you have, because you can end up paying all kinds of fees and stuff, and nobody likes that stuff, right? And you could end up, let's say you break your lease, now you have to pay whatever those agreements are. And like in my case, it was like I had to pay out the rest of my contract. Um, so that's why I try to explain. I'm like, you can live in an apartment in the beginning years of your life, but once you start moving up the food chain, is how I call it, like finding better jobs, and moving out, um, of those positions, right? Going from like an hourly worker to like a salary worker. You wanna kind of go for a home, things like that. So, and there's advantages for either one, and there's cons for both as well. So, like for example, like I said earlier with the apartment, you don't have to worry about maintenance. You don't have to worry about the pool being cleaned. You don't have to worry about if the air conditioner breaks at some time in the night. You can call someone typically, and they'll come in and fix that for you. Um, that's the positives for living in an apartment. The downside I already mentioned to you. There was like trash everywhere. People left feminine hygiene products at one time, a couple times, throughout different places. It feels like they just dropped it in the bushes or something. I'm like, why is that there? It doesn't make sense. But there was like a one time that I went into the elevator of my apartment, and there was like someone spilt a kitty litter box that must have been like 5 or 6 months old or something, because it was so nasty. For months, it was so nasty, and we complained about it all the time. And our elevator was like raunchy as hell. There'd be people who let their dog take their dogs out, but then their dog takes, they relieve themselves in the elevator or in front of the elevator, and it gets stepped on, and it was just a mess. It was just a complete mess, total chaos. Not for me. So with the house, the pros are it's your space. You can paint the walls whatever you want. You can hang whatever you want. You can play music at all hours of the night, inside, of course, not outside. I mean, there's within reason, right? You don't want to be blaring out your windows, blowing away your neighbors, making them upset. But um, pretty much I can do whatever I want to do with my home. If I want to put, LED lights throughout my entire house, I can. If I want to take out all the light switches and put smart switches in, I can do that. If I want to throw a little party in my house and people want to dance and get heavy with their feet, I don't have to worry about downstairs neighbors, complaining about the noise, right? I can do pretty much anything I want to do. And the convenience of the neighborhood that I'm in is I don't have to worry about any of the maintenance for the common areas. I don't have to even worry about maintenance for my yard. Well, I do have to worry about the maintenance of the yard and plants and stuff like that, but that's where HOA comes in for this neighborhood. But so the cons are, right, with owning a home is you own the home, meaning everything in it, everything around it, everything that goes to it and from it, you have to be concerned about. So, for example, the sewer pipes, for the sewer pipes coming to and from the house, if anything backs up in there and there's like I forgot what that's called, but where the sewage would be backed up into the house and it floods your house, guess who's responsible for that? You are, because it's your home. And most insurance does not cover that. Oh, that's the other thing too. Owning a home, you have to have homeowners insurance. And it's easily probably triple what an apartment insurance would be. And I know some apartments nowadays force you to have renter's insurance. Well, with a house, it would behoove you, especially if you have a loan, to have your home insured, right? And it has to be cover a certain amount depending on what your bank says. Most banks are going to tell you you have to have um, homeowners insurance on your house. And then depending on the loan that you have, you could have I forgot what's called PMI, right? So you have to pay for that too, and that raises your mortgage payment. Um, the advantage of having an apartment is no property taxes. Disadvantage to having a house: property taxes that change every single year and go up all the time. And whenever election season comes around and stuff like that, if people don't pay attention to the new laws and stuff like that, you could easily end up paying, tons more. They'll just raise the rates. Like every year, I see my taxes go up. It drives me nuts. Nothing around you gets better. Like the streets don't get better, the school and education doesn't get better. Where's the money go? So then there's that whole political thing. And we're trying not to go too much into the politics here, but that's just just my thoughts, my observation, what's happening around me. But I still, at the end of the day, would rather own my home, because every dollar I put in, well, of course, minus the interest. That's the other part that sucks. Is like in the beginning of the mortgage, the first 7 years, you're just paying interest, interest upon interest upon interest, and you're barely making a dent on the principal loan of your mortgage. But let's say you stay in the house, the typical person, or the average person, stays in their home from 4 to 7 years, and then they move. And I've said every time I bought a home, and this is my third one, I'm gonna stay in here until I can't walk up the stairs no more. I'm gonna sell this home when I can't walk up the stairs anymore, and then I'm gonna go get me a small one story home after the kids move out. And that way it's super easy for me to go in and out of the house, and I'll be happy. And I'll get a smaller home because I won't need a huge home, because I don't need to worry about all these kids. I could just have an office and maybe an art room for the missus, and then of course the bedroom, and then we just travel all over the world, do whatever we want to do, and then just come home to rest. And the rest of the time we're just there at the home to take care of odds and ends and things like that, things of that nature. And then my thoughts start changing over time to be like, okay, maybe I'll keep this house forever and ever. So this is what I'm saying. It's kind of like my thought was, oh, let me keep the house. Well, I have a VA loan, because like I said, being a vet, I can't just get another house. I cannot have two VA loans at the same time. At least that's what my understanding is. You have to sell the home that you're in, or change the mortgage so that it goes to a traditional mortgage not tied to the VA, so you can get another home with a VA loan. There's lots of advantages to having a veteran's VA loan. A lot less fees, a lot less BS, and the banks have to give you the best deal possible. It gives you a lot more flexibility. At least that's my experience for the last two homes. 3 homes actually. And my thought was, on the first home that I had ever bought, I was like, well, I'm going to buy this home, and then when it's time to buy the next home, I'm going to rent out this home. Well, I tried to follow that route, but I was like, I need the money now. But the other house was going to be built, and they're like, well, you need to sell the other home before we can, to show that you're committed to getting this next home, or you don't qualify for the loan. I was like, oh man, so I gotta sell this house. So I sold it, and that messed up that deal. Then the other house, life events happened and things changed, and I had to sell that one too. So that's another house I couldn't turn around and rent, and now I'm in this home. So hopefully, if the stars stay aligned, I can downsize in the future. And when I say downsize, it's not because I need to downsize to save money. I just want to downsize so I have less house to clean, right? You have a big home, you have all these rooms, and you have two kids living with you. Eventually those kids are going to move out, so then they're just going to be empty rooms, more rooms I got to go dust and vacuum and paint and just do everything with. Um, why? I mean, it's so much extra work, and for me, I'm trying to go easy, take it easy when I get older. I don't want to keep, doing maintenance on a house it's new, so I shouldn't have to worry about too much maintenance right now. But just maintaining those other rooms and paying AC and for those other rooms for what? No one's there. Granted, I could close those vents, but then I got to worry about moisture and mold, and that's the other thing. So these are the negative things about owning a home is you have to be considerate of your electric bill and your electric usage. That's why I bought solar for this house. I had solar in my last house. Love it. Love it. The thing I don't like is, the electric people, they're trying to, pass laws to say, hey, no one's allowed to, we're trying to get our money back, and these people who have solar, they're taking advantage of everyone else that don't have solar, so we should pass a law to say you don't get to meter your power anymore. They're trying to be sneaky and pass these laws to mess up people who have solar, and I don't think that's fair in my opinion. Um, and for all of us that bought solar, I'm not leasing my solar, so I have a loan for my solar, and it's not cheap. It's very expensive, and you're gonna be paying on it for 10, 15, 20 years. But I'm paying it, right? I'm paying for my electricity one way or another. The only difference is I own the solar, and it's on my house. So that's the only difference. Instead of me putting money to the power plant, for them to charge me their gas fees and everything else fees, because that's basically a power plant doesn't pay anything for their fuel. They don't care what kind of oil they get. They don't care what kind of gasoline they get. They don't care propane, butane, whatever. I mean, whatever fuel it is for that type of generator that they're running, or turbine that they're running, or coal plant that they're running, or whatever it is, they don't care what the fuel costs are because they just pass it on to the customer. That's what's in your bill. You're paying for the fuel. It ain't them. They don't care. They don't care at all. So, that's just what it is. But um, let me see. Let me get off the tangent of there. So, other thing, the other pro and kind of a con. An apartment, you get water from the city or a well. I mean, but most apartments run city water. And whatever comes out of the tap is whatever you get. It's not filtered. You'd have to buy a filter and plug that in and all that stuff, and you could end up messing up the apartment and have to pay all these fees for water damage or messing with pipes and things. You don't want to do that. So, but with a house, I can put any kind of water filtration system in my house. I did a whole home water filtration system so that pretty much you could drink water from the shower while you're taking a shower. You could brush your teeth with it, not worry about it. If Fido likes to drink from the toilet bowl, well, Fido's going to get some clean water unless, someone didn't flush the toilet. Let's just say I've seen that a couple times from my older dogs. That's not good. But anyways, you could drink water from the fridge and then add your little filter on the fridge too. So now you have it double filtered, and add the charcoal filter to kind of give it a little more flavor. Your dishes come out cleaner, your showers stay cleaner, your toilet stays cleaner, your sink stay cleaner, your clothes is cleaner. There's just so many benefits to a whole home water filtration system, and that's not cheap too. So you have a loan for that. So I have a loan for solar. I have the mortgage. I don't have to worry about PMI. I do have to worry about taxes. I have to worry about HOA. HOA is not cheap, and it frustrates me to no end. With an apartment, there is no HOA. You know what the HOA is? It is the rules of the apartment. Whatever the rules are for the apartment is what it is. The common areas, we're closing the doors. You can't go to the gym. You can't go to the arcade room. You can't use the coffee machine that's in the common area unless it's working, and they may or may not fix it. And there's just all these little nuances, the pros and cons of each. All right. So back to why I think that I wanted to go to the home, right? I wanted to go to the home for many advantages. One is if for whatever reason something was to happen to me, I could give it to my significant other, and or I could give it to my son if I was to pass away. If I died in an apartment, what do they get? They just get the lease. The lease has to be broken at that point because I don't exist anymore. So whatever my heirs are, they're stuck with that bill. all right, or whatever damages that are there. Well, at the house, okay, sure, there's damages in the house, but do you have to sell it? No, you don't have to sell it. So that's why I set up the whole life insurance policy. So we're going right back to the whole life insurance policies. Is yes, my employer provides, life insurance policies and things like that, so it covers all of the bills easily. But if you look at it, how much money is there? How much money is there to pay the bills, all the debts, pay off the house if you need to, and how long will that money last? I mean, will it last a couple weeks if you get the check today and you just pay all the bills off? Now what do you got? You're still going to have to pay taxes on stuff. You still got to pay the solar bill or the electric bill connection fee because, here in where I live, there's a power connection fee. One second, I'll take a drink here. Yeah, so you have the connection fees, you have the water bill that's still going to keep coming, sewer bill, trash and recycle bill, all those bills, cell phone bills, bills still keep coming. They're not going to end, all right? You still have to buy groceries, you still have to pay for odds and ends and stuff like that around the house to fix things. If the washer and dryer dies, was there a warranty or was there not a warranty? Is it still in warranty? If not, you got to repair it. How much is the repairman? There's tons of things, right? Air conditioner goes out, you have to call somebody, they have to come and fix it. All right. So that's where I come in with those life insurance policies and teaching people how to invest. All right. And primarily when I say people, I'm trying to talk to my local family, right? Just my significant other, her daughter, and my son. And I've been talking to my parents that are already in retirement age, but they can't retire. So these are the advantages of what I've learned throughout my financial journey that it was never told to me or taught to me ever in my life. Not by my parents. I'm not trying to say anything negative towards them because they're great people. What I'm saying is they just didn't know. So when you don't know something, how are you supposed to teach, your future generation of kids if you don't know, right? If you don't know anything, how are you supposed to teach your family something you don't know? Um, so I'm learning these things and I'm trying to teach this to, my significant other and her child and my son. And my son seems to be the only one who really takes this, serious because he sees the advantage of like, man, you mean to tell me I only have to work for like 10 years and I can retire? All I got to do is work really hard, live super frugal, and invest everything. And then when it comes time, I can retire in like 10 years and then go travel the world. I can go do whatever I want to do. In his case, it's like play video games or something like that. But whatever, you can do whatever you want. If you reach FIRE, which is financial independence and retiring early, you can do whatever you want. The trigger word for most people is that word retire. Retire doesn't mean like sit back on the beach and sip some mai tais and or whatever. I mean wherever whatever is your flavor, right? Maybe it's a beer or maybe it's a margarita. I don't care. But retirement to me, and that's what I try to teach my son, is is having the ability and flexibility to pursue ideas that you may have. Maybe you want to pursue a passion. Maybe you want to go to school for fun. Maybe um, you want to uh, learn how to be a mechanic, fix your own car, but not really become a mechanic to work for somebody, but become a mechanic to work for yourself. Um, Maybe you want to learn how to do AC repair. Again, not to go work for somebody, but to just do it for yourself. Keep your house in shape, something like that. But at least that's from my perspective. I'm sure for my son it'd be like, oh, I want to do like culinary arts or something like that. So retirement to me would be like giving you that ability when you reach FIRE to work if you need to or if you want to. So there's a huge difference between need to and want to. The need to means you ain't in FIRE really. You're trying to make your ends meet. You still have bills to pay. You have obligations, and your actual investments haven't caught up enough, if you have them, to support your lifestyle. So, with all that being said, with fire basically comes your financial independence. So financial independence to me is having enough money that comes in to give me the flexibility to say I am financially stable, financially secure, that I can pursue any job opportunity if I want to change jobs at any time. I don't have to worry about, oh, if I lose my job tomorrow, is the mortgage going to get paid? Is my car going to get towed? Am I going to be able to make any of my payments on time? So your fire is the first part is just making sure you're financially stable, right? You have things in alignment. Maybe you have a side job somewhere. Maybe that business idea that you want to pursue is starting to make you some money on the side, enough money in which you don't have to rely on your main source of income. You can kind of rely on your actual, hobbies or whatever it is. Because most of the time it's people's hobbies, like what they're into, that builds that side job. People do, Etsy type things, or I don't know, whatever, wood burning, just name it. Knitting up little clothes or shirts for animals and things like that, or doing custom T-shirts or magnets or stickers or whatever it is. I mean, it could be anything. And then the retiring early part just means to me that I don't have to work for someone full time. I could just go get me a part-time job somewhere just to keep myself busy, and for the benefits of like health insurance and things like that, dental and vision. That's pretty much why I would keep working, and just to have a little extra spending money on the side is just work for extra spending money or build my investments greater. So with the side hustle thing, right? Most of those side hustle things start from like you having free time, or you having the ability to pursue a hobby that or an interest that you enjoy, right? Maybe you enjoy taking photos of cars. I mean, not everybody's into that stuff, but let's say that you really enjoy taking photos of like exotic cars and things like that, and it kind of excites you. So you kind of want to pursue that. Maybe people go, hey, how much do you charge? And let me see some of your photos that you take of these cars, and maybe you get into Photoshop or something like that, and you get really good at it. So you build your skills, and now you have a side hustle that all of a sudden starts to be profitable. Maybe people go, hey man, I'll pay you whatever it is to take photos of my car or whatever, and maybe that's something that you would pursue. Um, for me personally, I'm into cars, but I'm not that much into like looking at uh, let me see, not so much the photo stuff. I'm more like uh, how would I say it? I like to look at the old cars and go to car events and things like that, just to be around that environment. And I don't know, like I guess deep down I'm kind of like a muscle car kind of guy. But I do like the electric cars and stuff. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's a lifestyle kind of thing. So back to the whole thing with the house and being financially free and independent. So with the whole life insurance policy stuff, and with your life insurance um, taking care of you, you want to make sure that your family's taken care of, that they understand all of the things they got to look out for too, right? Spotting the BS, right? You want to make sure that you spot scammers so that you don't get scammed. I don't know how many times I get these phone calls, I get these emails, I get these text messages saying, oh, if you don't contact us, your package is going to get returned or whatever. That's a scam. Let's see, the one where they go, what was it? There was something that happened to my mom recently, and she had some scammer saying something about her insurance policy or something was expired, but they needed access to her computer to give her refund back for some insurance thing. I'm like, what the heck is all this crap? Don't fall for that stuff. So spotting the BS is like, if it sounds fishy, and if you weren't like asking for that information, just don't entertain the conversation. And so that's why I teach my son. I teach people around me like, hey, Um, if the bank calls you and they're telling you they need to connect to your computer, or they tell you that you owe money or something like that, I would hang up immediately and then go directly to your bank if you can go directly to it, or call your bank directly. Don't talk to the people on the phone that called you. Talk to the bank directly and say, hey, I got this call from this person, and they claim that I have these, that I owe all this money or something. What's going on with my account? You know, they're gonna freeze my account. They're gonna take my pay. They're gonna take me to court, or whatever that they say, you know, to try to scare you. Call the person directly. You know, call the bank directly. Say, hey, bank, what's going on? They could tell you. Then there's the other side of it, to be like, um, oh, I'm stuck. I'm stranded somewhere. This is your niece so and so. This falls for all the elderly people out there that this happens. The scam happens all the time. Oh, can you front me some cash so that I can, you know, get my car repaired, or I need to put gas in the car, or I'm stuck. I need some bus money, or I need to be able to buy a flight back, or I'm stuck in jail. Can you bail me out? You know, stuff like that. Those type of scams exist out there, and people fall for it all the time. Like, why don't you just hang up the phone and call the person they claim to be and say, hey, what's going on? Now, let's say you had one of those, you know, your niece does call you all the time, and your niece is in jail. Well, obviously she's only getting that one phone call, and she calls you, you hang up, you're kind of screwed. But she's not really screwed, because she still gave you the message to say, I am, you know, in this jail or whatever. So you can call the jail, call your cousin or call your niece and say, hey, this is the cell phone. She's not answering the phone. Okay, well that doesn't make sense. Okay, where did this lady say that she was calling from? Okay, from this county jail. Let me call the county jail and ask for my cousin, you know, or niece, whatever. So you can do things. You kind of have to just not take the initial call as like this is gospel. You just kind of hang up the phone, do your own research on the side, and go to your bank directly. Call your bank directly if it's someone claiming that there's somebody that's related to you. Hang up the phone and call that relative and say, hey, what's going on? I got this call saying that you were in trouble or whatever. Is this true or not? And usually that gets cleared up immediately. That could save you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of bull crap, because you don't want to give out your social security number, your address, your name. Don't even verify any of that stuff. So they start asking you, what's your first name? What's your last name? What's the last four of your social? We know where you live. This is your address. Is that correct? Is this your name? Is that correct? Don't say anything. Do not say yes, no, just hang up. Just hang up. That'll save you a whole bunch of hassle right there. But with all that being said, is teaching your family about all the stuff to spot the BS, like phone calls and things like that. That's kind of critical. To life. And then when you get to looking at whole life insurance policies and IULs and stuff like that, do a lot of research. Take your time, sit back and look at those things. Maybe they're not for you. Maybe you need term insurance. Maybe you need something super cheap, just enough to give you some money just in case something happens to you or happens to a family member. You can open up a policy on yourself first, and then open one on your children or your spouse. Of course, those will be lower and they'll be scrutinized, because they'll be like, why are you putting life insurance on your family for? They may ask questions, but that's fine. I mean, if you're legit and you're looking for stuff to protect yourself and protect your family and protect their futures, then go for it. I don't see any problem with that at all. So fire. Yep. You gotta pursue it one way or another, and the only way that I can think of is you gotta focus on getting out of debt. And as I've made a couple videos about, and I did take one down. I don't know. Let me start with this. In September, I think it was August or September last year, I ran across Christy Van and the velocity banking method, and it was way late at night. I remember I was getting into bed, and I was watching Christy Van, and I was like, man, I have a lot of debt. to pay off and stuff like that. But it wasn't like on the forefront of my head at the time. I'm not getting ready to go to bed, so let me just peruse around, check out the news and stuff like that. And then I saw Christy Van come across, and I was like watching her video, and she's showing how fast can you pay off, $10,000 in debt or something. I forgot what the video was exactly, but she goes through and gives this example, and I'm like, man, that math does not make sense. Like, nobody does math like that. Nobody gets paid monthly and pays all their bills at once at the beginning of the month, and no one gets paid at the beginning of the month. No one gets interest charged at the beginning of the month. All that stuff doesn't make sense because she was doing the math where you got your income going into your debt tool, and then all your bills coming out, or all your debts coming out, and then the interest being put back into the amount, and then you have a balance, and then it was the next month, and I was like watching this math, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but it was very intriguing to me. So I watched another video, and I watched another video, and I watched another video. Before I knew it, I probably watched at least 10, 15 videos of hers, and it was like midnight, and then the light bulb went off, and it made sense to me. I started getting my bills out. And my mind was just going. I couldn't sleep at that point because I was like so excited. I was like, holy crap. This has been sitting in front of my face this entire time, and I've seen videos similar to this. But the way that people put the videos out there is like, it's like they're selling you on something. Like I forgot what I think it's the Quan brothers or something like that. It's somebody who does velocity banking, but they use HELOCs and stuff like that. And they were explaining, oh, you can pay off your house super fast if you get a HELOC, and then you throw all your income into the HELOC, and then you take the money from the HELOC and you pay down your mortgage. And then the next month, you do the same thing again. You get paid, you put the money in, you take the money out, and you slam huge checks into your mortgage, and you pay off your mortgage in like 5, 6, 7 years. Some crazy stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's so scammy. And then you go to Dave Ramsey, which everybody does. I went to Dave Ramsey, and I'm like, he specifically states that doing the HELOC and trying to pay off the home in an accelerated manner is a no-no. That you don't do that. It's a good way to get yourself messed up and in more trouble than you were to begin with. So I ignored it. I've seen those videos before. I just ignored it. And then every once in a while I see, YouTube videos of people saying, hey, get a credit card and use it as leverage to pay off your debt and stuff like that. But they didn't really call it velocity banking at the time. Or maybe they did, I just didn't pay attention. But I'm telling you, like in August, when I watched it, I felt like I've never heard the concept ever before. But when she started talking about it and ran the numbers, and then I sat down and ran the numbers, I was like, there's something to this. There's definitely something to this. So for like 2 weeks, I would say pretty much like 2 weeks straight, I'd spend hours running all my numbers. I grabbed all of my credit card statements. I grabbed my checking account statements. I grabbed my car payment, my mortgage, the HELOC, the solar, the water treatment system, all of my debts. I grabbed them all up, and I looked at all the due dates, the amounts I owed, how much I was paying every single month. And then I just started filling out an Excel spreadsheet. And I went to town, man. I just put all kinds of numbers in there, and I was like, well, let's do this a little more realistic to be like, okay, I get paid on a certain time, so that money needs to go into my checking account and then go from my checking account into my credit card. But then I was like, okay, well, which credit card do I use? So those were the next obvious questions to me. Was like, okay, well, I understand now that this could be very real and it could help you out big time, because I was running the numbers. I was like, man, I could pay off my stuff super quick. But then I had all these gray areas. I was like, well, how do I which credit card do I use? And will my bank look at me all cross-eyed? What happens if what happens if I move all of my money to my credit card? Now this bill comes in, it hits my checking account, and I have no money in there. They're going to bounce that request, and now I'm going to have a late fee and all these overdraft fees, and all this stuff is going to happen to me negatively. I was like, man, this is super risky. I was like, man, I don't know if I should do this. I don't think I should do this. I don't think I am ready for all this stuff. So I kept watching more and more Christy Van's videos, and I forgot what that other kid's name is. He puts me to sleep every time I listen to him. But I was watching his videos. I think he's from Miami. I forgot what his name is right now. It's drawing a blank. But I was watching his videos and he was explaining the same thing, but he broke it down even deeper than she did. Like he would break it down like the interest charges and the fees and how you'd want to do it. You want to make sure that the credit card that you're using as a debt tool should be tied to your checking account, and your checking account should have overdraft protection linked to that credit card, and there should be no transfer fees for that type of transaction. You just have to be concerned about the interest because the interest starts charging as soon as the transaction goes through. So you go into all these details, and I was like, okay, well, let me call my bank. So I called my bank, and I go, okay, can I set up overdraft to go to my credit card? They said, yeah, no problem. I said, okay, so with the credit card I have right now, is there any fees associated with any overdrafts that happen? They said no. And I said, okay, great. So what happens if my credit card is maxed out and I don't have enough money on my credit card to cover the overdraft? They said, well, then you're going to have the fee. You're going to have the overdraft fee that's going to occur, and they're going to return the payment back to the person making the request, denying it. So you're going to have a fee on that end too. And then if they reprocess that fee several times, you can have multiples of those fees, so it could get really crazy. So they said, well, we would recommend that you always have money on that credit card to cover any overdrafts that occur. I said, okay, great. Now, how does the interest work? So I understand now that if I get charged something from, let's say it was my mortgage goes through, it hits my checking account. The checking account doesn't have any money, it's zero. It's going to go to my credit card and say, do you have enough money to cover this overdraft? It'll say yes or no. And in my case, I made sure, yes, there's money in there to cover the mortgage. And it pays it transfers the money into the checking account, and then the bill's paid. No fees. The only thing is interest. And interest starts the day that the money is pulled from the account and transferred over. And I said, okay, so can you run through the scenario of how the interest is charged on a normal purchase versus a quote unquote cash advance or overdraft, right, from the credit card to the checking? How does that work? And so they spent time. I called probably like 10, 15 times to get answers. Maybe not as much, I'm probably over exaggerating, but I did read every single line of my credit card and of my checking and the overdraft information. And I think I posted a video on that. But if you purchase something with a credit card, you normally have a grace period for the first 29 to 31 or 32 days, depending on your billing cycle for that billing statement, before they start charging you interest on that purchase. But the entire time, you're being charged interest daily on existing transactions from the previous statement, right? So the only thing that changes in this whole thing is when you start getting charged interest. So with an overdraft being tied to a credit card, the money moves out and you start being charged interest compound daily on that transaction from the time the money moves. So that part started to make sense the more I started doing the math and watching Christy Van and blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, so in order to be very successful in this whole setup, it would be ideal to find a credit card that works with my bank or is from my bank, and they have a promo period of like 0 interest for X number of months. So then I don't have to worry about any transfer fees at all if I want to consolidate credit cards to this card, but then I got to make sure there's enough cushion or overhead to take care of any transactions that hit my checking account. So I know that's very confusing, but trust me when I say this, you should do your research and you will find, if you write it all out, take your time, look over your numbers, ask questions. You have to ask questions. Again, you make sure you fully understand what you're getting into. And then you commit to not using your credit cards, not overpaying the minimum balance. Always make the minimum payments on your cards, all of them, Make sure you pay your loans, make sure you pay your mortgage, make sure you pay every single bill you have. But when it comes to the credit cards, you pay the minimum. Okay? Let's say you have money that you owe on your credit card that's associated with your bank. So if you're with Bank of America and you have a Bank of America credit card, your Bank of America credit card needs to get to zero first. That is your primary goal, is to pay that down, and you can do that either the Dave Ramsey way or the Velocity Banking way. If you're doing the Velocity Banking way, there has to be headroom in that credit card to cover all of your bills. All of your bills. The credit card bills, your loan bills, your car payment, your mortgage, all that stuff has to be covered by that credit card. Has to have room in there to cover all that. Okay, and then you start with your very first paycheck. You start with your very first paycheck, and then you go from there and make sure you pay all your bills on time, and then you're gonna start to see it. I was like super skeptical. I was super skeptical the first couple of months, and then I could see like all this stuff working for me. It was just falling off. Like the debts were falling off. They were going super fast, like paying off stuff. I just paid off a whole bunch of stuff like super quick. And I was like, wow, why wasn't I thinking about this before? Whenever I was doing the whole Dave Ramsey thing, I was like, none of my bills were falling this fast. Because I wasn't doing it the same way, because I was looking at my credit card with my bank, and I was like, okay, this credit card is charging me the payment plus the interest every single month. And I was like, man, this is a lot of money coming out. It's like close to $1,000 just in that payment, which is the interest and the payment. I was like, well, I got to do something. I need to do something here to do that. And then I watched the Velocity Banking videos again. I mean, I probably watched about, I don't know, 100 or so Velocity Banking videos from all kinds of people, from all different angles, from all different walks of life. Some of them seem very scammy. Some of them seem very newbie, like they don't really know what they're doing. Some of them seem kind of educated, but they just don't have the following or the editing skills. I don't have any editing skills whatsoever. And sometimes I'm very dry, but I like to be very thorough and investigate as much as I can, and gather as much information before I pursue something. I don't necessarily just jump head over feet into something and really mess myself up. So I did a ton of research, but I found, and I'm still learning, that what I needed to do was pay off the credit card that's associated with my bank that I'm going to use as my debt tool. So once that's paid off, and these are adjustments I made over time doing this Velocity Banking, but I'm trying to tell you this kind of shorthanding, or this is the cheat code for you. The cheat code is whatever your debt tool is needs to have a zero balance on it. Let's say that bank card is maxed out. You're not going to be doing Velocity Banking for a while until you pay that balance down. So then you use the Dave Ramsey method, where you calculate your numbers and you're like, oh, I have this much left over in my cash flow. I'm going to eat beans and rice and not go out and not do this and not do that, and really sacrifice, everything, so that way I can, pay this card down to zero as fast as possible. You could do that. But then when I'm listening to the Velocity Banking way, I don't have to change my lifestyle. It will naturally occur. You're naturally going to want to change your lifestyle, so you can watch your bank statements for all these credit cards and loans and your car payment all just like start melting and like disappearing. You'll be getting excited. You'll be like, okay, I'm not gonna go to Starbucks anymore. I'm not gonna waste that money at Starbucks. I'm just gonna take the money that I have that I would have spent on Starbucks, and I'm gonna slam it into this credit card. So you could do that. So what I did was I took all this extra cash that I had as my cash flow number, and I put it all into that credit card. So in the beginning, when I started doing this stuff, I was like, okay, well, I have enough cushion in the credit card to do the Velocity Banking and pay off debts that are going to start charging me interest, because a lot of my cards were zero interest for a certain amount of time, but there was a few of them that were going to expire. One of them was going to expire this coming April. And they were going to start charging me like 29% interest or something crazy like that. And I think it was my Best Buy credit card, because I bought appliances for my house, and it was going, the interest was going to be hitting me. I was like, man, I got to do something quick. I got to pay these debts off. I have like $7,000 on this credit card. That's going to add up quick. And what I read And maybe I could be wrong. Maybe I could be wrong. But the way I read it, it was deferred interest, meaning they weren't charging you the interest during the time that you had the loan. As long as you paid off the loan before the interest started being charged, you would not have all that deferred interest piled onto you on day whatever it was, right? Or month 18, month 19, month 25, whatever it is, whenever your interest ends. And so I was looking at that, I was like, okay, so I need to pay this off. I have 6 months to do it. I think I started all this stuff at the beginning of September. I think that's the date that I started doing the velocity banking. So I was like, all right, so I have enough cushion inside my credit card to do the velocity banking. And man, I was nervous as hell. I was so nervous starting, and I kept calling the bank. I was like, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure there's no fees? And if I get charged to my checking account and there's nothing in it, there's no money in the account, it's going to go and pull the money from my, I just double checked. I made sure everything was lining up, all the stars were lining up, and it was. I was just nervous, super nervous in the beginning. But I did it. I did it. I got going, and I was stoked. Man, I was so happy when I saw my mortgage hit my checking account. And people go, "Oh, you can't pay your mortgage with a credit card." Yes, that's true. But you can pay your mortgage with your credit card. The way it works is you have to pay your mortgage with a check, right? You have to pay a mortgage with a check. So your paycheck comes in, your paycheck goes to your credit card. The credit card is linked to your checking account as overdraft protection. So 100% of my paycheck went into my checking account on payday. On the same day that it showed up, I made a payment to my credit card, the one that's linked to my account. Then on the first of the month, I see it come in to my checking account. Man, I was nervous as hell because I see that big old huge thing saying pending mortgage payment from bank blah blah blah, this much money. I was like, oh crap, man. So I let it sit. And I logged into my credit card and I saw pending overdraft protection, and I saw the amount of money, and they round up to the nearest 100. That amount of money was being sent to my checking account for overdraft protection. I was like, oh, this looks like it's going to work. So the money got moved over, and then it cleared. The pending was cleared. The bank goes, the mortgage company goes, thank you for your payment. And I logged online to make sure there was no overdraft fees. I checked my credit card. I checked my checking account. I checked with the mortgage to see if they didn't like resubmit it a couple times, and I was just not seeing it. And everything was good. Everything was kosher. I was like, oh, that's so relieving just to see the biggest bill that I have go through. And then it was even better whenever I looked at my credit card. I wasn't paying $1,000 every month. I'm just paying the interest because I was already satisfying the payment. So what did that mean? That means because the difference between the principal and the interest, I was satisfying the payment requirement for the credit card. So by transferring all of my money, right, my entire paycheck into that credit card, I basically eliminated my payment on that credit card. I was just paying interest at that point. And there's a $500 difference between what I'm being charged principal plus the interest, right? So I was like, man, that's $500 of extra cash right there. I can apply that towards another credit card. And guess what I did? That's exactly what I did, was I took that extra $500 and my cash flow that I had and applied it towards my Best Buy card. I paid off my Best Buy card in record time. I took a large chunk from my credit card. I had a little bit of cushion in there. I did the math. I made sure everything's good to go. All my bills are going to be paid. I'm going to chunk a large chunk to my Best Buy card. And I did. I was like, man, this is so great. I paid off my Best Buy credit card. All right, let me look at my my Apple card, and let me look at my Verizon card, and I paid all those off. I was like, man, this is really working. Like every month I was just melting bills. I was like, this is so cool. And then I watched a video from Donnell Statham, and they go, why would you be paying interest on your credit card that is your debt tool? Your credit card debt tool should be 0. You should have no balance on that card, because it makes no sense to pay 20 something % interest I don't know what my credit card is right now. I think it's way lower than that. I think it's 18, maybe 18% interest on the credit card. But anyways, it doesn't make any sense to pay off a 0% interest credit card, because almost all of mine are 0 interest. It doesn't make any sense to pay off a credit card that is 0% interest and put it on a credit card that is now charging you interest, 18, 19% interest. I was like, you know what? I have been doing this all wrong as far as that is concerned. So let me focus my attention. Now I don't have to worry about Best Buy anymore, because I was like 29% or whatever the number was. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Let me focus on my debt tool. So the moral of this story is identify your debt tool. Make sure that your debt tool has no fees, that it can be linked to your checking account in such a manner that you can use it as overdraft protection. Understand how the interest is charged, because on your bank statements, some of them will say overdraft or cash advances or anything like that that's not a normal charge will be charged a different interest rate. I verified with my bank. I called them up and I spent time. I know I was a pain in the butt, but I was like, this is what I'm trying to do, and I just need to verify what is my interest rate for overdraft, cash advances, basically. What is that? And they go, the interest is exactly the same. The only difference is the interest starts accruing the day that the money is transferred. I'll say, good. I just want to make sure that's good to go. Then I went and looked at what happens if I need cash, right? And you're going to run into this too. There are certain things that I have to go and pay cash for. Or I need to Zelle money to someone or Venmo money to someone. And if my checking account that I usually pull that money from has 0 in it, you cannot Zelle money to anyone. So I was like, okay, so let me see what happens if let me call them up and say, okay, is there any fees, or do I get charged, a cash advance fee if I move money from my from my credit card to my checking account? If I say I want to move $100 from my credit card to my checking account, how does that work? They go, okay, sir, this is going to be considered a cash advance, but, and a big huge but here, because I am moving my money from my associated credit card with the bank, approved by the bank, and is basically the same as the bank, there are no fees associated with cash advances. And then another but, there is a limit to how much money you can transfer per month. There's also a limit of how much you can transfer per day. So I pulled up my statements, I pulled up my credit card agreement, and I looked all that up. So for me, it's I think it's $2,500 a day. I was like, okay, that's good, because nothing I need to pay in cash is going to be $2,500. It's going to be something like $100. Maybe I need to pull cash to go pay for parking someplace for an event, and they don't take credit cards. Maybe they take cash only. So what am I going to pull? $100 maybe, right? And the rest of the time I'm just going to use my credit card to pay for whatever, right? So what I do is then I would just pay, or not pay, I would just go onto my credit card, do a cash advance, no fees, but the interest starts charging that day. Same thing as an overdraft. And that saved me so much. I'm so happy that stuff worked out. And that's why I say, like in all the videos that I do, it's very, very, very important that you do your research, find out what your numbers are. And so in doing that, in gathering, so it's like a gathering of information in the beginning. Gather all your numbers, all your bills, all your statements, print out, you should be able to print out at least 6 months of your checking account. If you have more than one checking account, like for me, I have two checking accounts. Print out those statements. Look at where your money's going. Every penny of where the money is going. If it's going to fees, is it going out to eat? Is it going out to subscriptions? Is it going out for prescriptions, right? like for example, I had an HP printer that would charge me, $4 and some change every single month for their subscribed ink thing. I forget what it's called right now. Or Netflix or Hulu or Disney or whatever, whatever. Maybe you have an insurance thing that you're paying for, extended warranty or new phone. You know how Apple will charge you something on the side every single month for your phones or your devices, whatever it is, right? So they have a zero interest program thing. You need to know what those are. How long does it last? When's that stuff paid off? Do you have headphones that you bought somewhere that you're making payments on? You know what that is. When's the payoff date, and what's the interest, and what's the penalties if you don't pay it off fast enough? All this information is during your research phase. So gathering all those numbers, while you're gathering those numbers and really burning paper through your from your printer, you're going to go and call your bank. So, and if your bank is no good, there's more legwork for you to do. Find a bank. Ask people that are doing the velocity banking, hey, what bank do you bank with that allows you to get a credit card with them, assuming that you have credit, because this could take you months to get ready. Because if your credit's no good, you're not going to be able to get a credit card with that bank, right? So let's just say you find a bank that's pretty decent that you can sign up with. You're going to do a lot of work. I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of work involved. But once it's up and running, it is like night and day difference. I can still go out to eat because I'm within my budget. I don't have to eat rice and beans every freaking day. I don't have to sacrifice my lifestyle. Right? If I want to go to the movies, I can. It's in my budget. I don't have to cut. Now, that's not to say don't cut. You can cut, and if you do cut and you live the Dave Ramsey rice and beans thing and you sacrifice, that just helps you even more and accelerates you even faster to pay off your money. Not the money, but pay off your debts. So you call your bank, you make sure they have a credit card or some kind of like P-lock or something like that associated with that account, and that it has enough money in that P-lock to cover your bills and your expenses and stuff like that. So there are more advanced things and more advanced techniques, because I'm definitely doing some advanced stuff here, but just to keep it super Barney, super easy, super basic, you need just two things. You don't need a HELOC. Let's say you don't even have a house. You're living in an apartment. You just need to get out of debt, and that's what you're trying to do, right? So you just need your checking account and your associated HELOC, personal line of credit, or credit card, not a loan. Do not get a loan. Do not do a debt consolidation loan, because once you pay the money into the loan, you're not getting the money out. This has to be a revolving line of credit. So you need a credit card or a PLOC to make this work. If you cannot qualify for the credit card and the bank says, yes, we do have overdraft protection for our credit card, would you like to apply? You can apply, but don't use that credit card for anything else if you do get it. Keep it at zero. Write your budget. Look at your budget as I have it spelled out in my Excel spreadsheet videos. Know what your numbers are. Know what your cash flow is. It's so important that you get that stuff set up. Don't just jump into them like, oh, I got a credit card. I called them up. It's linked together. I'm good to go. Let me just start doing all this. Blah, blah, blah. No, you're going to screw yourself. Don't do that. That's straight BS. So get your numbers together. Make sure that there's no fees. Make sure that you have the ability to pay things off super quick without any penalties to all your car, maybe a car note or any kind of loans. Look into those things, because they may sneak in something and say, hey, oh, you paid it off early, we're going to charge you this fee for paying stuff off early. I haven't personally seen that, but I've heard about it. HELOCs are something for people who have equity in their house, and you can leverage your home to, use that as a debt tool. That could work out to your benefit too. Personally, I don't qualify for a HELOC only because of two things. I don't have a high enough credit score, and the value of my house, well, the credit score is fine, It's just the value of my home. It's so new, and the economy the way it is, I don't have enough equity in my home to do a HELOC. So give it a year, maybe 2 years, I can do a HELOC. But then I'm going to start researching that. I'll create videos on all that too, how to do a HELOC. But I'm also looking at towards doing like a first position HELOC and then comparing the two. So it's all about homework, doing your research, calling the banks, finding out what the fees are associated with each one of those things. But either way, do your research, gather your numbers, know what your numbers are. And if you get a PLOC and say the PLOC is only $5,000, make sure that all your bills can be paid. All your bills can be paid. Right? All of the expenses, all your debts, everything. Make sure everything can be paid by that PLOC. If your PLOC is $5,000 and all your expenses, all your bills, everything that you have that comes out of your checking accounts or account now is less than $5,000, then do it. Like I said, be very thorough in your research. Take your time, ask questions. Don't just do, make sure you know. Okay? I think I went a little bit long today. I feel like I've covered a lot of information here. I may do another video tomorrow for you guys. If you want to do a live session with me, just let me know and I will get online. Probably around, I'm not sure yet, maybe noonish or later, but they'll be short videos because I'm traveling to Canada. I got to do some work up there. But let's all try together and try to make this, let's do this as a community thing. Like I would love to see everyone that subscribed to me and everyone that is on the same goal of getting out of debt and pursuing FIRE. And what I mean by FIRE is just retiring early. And when I say retire, relaxing. Not having to worry about the stresses of life. Go do what you want to do. Live life the way you want to live it to the fullest. Maybe start some cool hobbies. All right. Well, that's all I got for now, and I hope that you guys have a great night or morning, however you're listening to this, and I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for watching. I hope you like, and I hope that you share, and I'll talk to you next time.